What's this?
Do you have bills or not?
I have just, the only one would be mine.
The only one is yours this month.
Yep, because we didn't do any full burials and haven't bought anything or,
Okay. All right.
3,
I've checked the box a few times and there was nothing. The only thing up there was a couple things I got here.
Just his bill, and you can sign right under mine, and I'll leave you my pen so you can do it, Nick.
There's a few of these things there, but that's,
What are these?
oh, that was in there before. I don't know, if that's some,
Oh, okay. I'm not gonna,
where am I signing?
I will explain that right now.
okay.
Sir, under you?
Yeah, sign it under me, yeah. They only put one line there because most of the boards now have one person sign, and we have never done that, so. That's how we do it.
So that was,
This one is,
November.
over.
yeah. This one is the slip that we get from the gas station on,
Oh, all right. Okay,
Benny's
oh, the
gas
card.
station.
Okay, the card there.
and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different departments that they sell gas to based on the card they use.
Yep.
And so we have 139.28 was what they did on that. And of course, Highway is doing the mowing, so therefore they're the ones that are buying the gas. So that much is charged by the accountant to our accounts.
Okay.
And we don't have to put in another paper on it.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I know that we went to where it was going directly there with
Yeah.
that card, which made things so
Yes.
much easier.
It is making it much easier.
Yeah.
And so, fire department, council on aging, DPW, the highway and police, they all get their pieces out of this too.
And I think every vehicle has its own card too.
Yeah, they may very well.
So this is the town is on account with one of the gas?
Yeah, this is the town buys the gas over there.
At the Gulfs. Well, I think they can go different places, because I see that sometimes they're down at the Rotary, the Shell, but they go over here
Yeah,
to
So
the
they've
Gulf Station.
taken out accounts with the different
Yeah,
local gas
yeah.
stations, so that's very smart.
and that all goes into the accountant, and the accountant, and the bill comes in with the different departments' amounts, and so she just does those deductions and gives us this so we know to
How much came out of our
put in
account?
our account how much came out of it.
So we don't have to do anything.
We don't have to do anything
Can I
with it,
see
no,
it? So
except
I
keep track
recognize
of
it
it
when it
ourselves.
comes along.
Yeah.
So
You
at
don't-
some
you don't-
point in the future-
You don't really, it
If
doesn't
I
really
ever-
need to go in the minutes because we're not going to act on it, but,
Yeah, I just said,
and of course, this is late in the season, we'd have bigger ones some months earlier. Okay, that's it for bills and accounts, right?
Yep.
And we got nothing, we should have, you got one burial for $50.
Yeah, it was,
So we had a deposit that went in on that.
yeah, it was, Rocco.
Oh, yeah, Honorado. Yeah. This is you don't have to put this in there either. This is a deposit that he made for.
That's the
for a
thing
burial.
I got back from the,
An
it's
actual
gotta go in the
burial.
file cabinet.
Yeah. I need to make a note of that later before I go home. Okay, that takes care of bills and accounts. Budget for next year.
Okay.
We're way late with it, but we know what's happened, so that's where we are, and we're gonna get it in today, right after the meeting. My suggestion is we put in for our budget for this year the same amount that we actually had appropriated for this year. Not what we put in for a budget for this year, but what was appropriated last year. Because some of the money when we put the budget in last year, we still had George's part-time salary as a salary. And as an employee, a town employee. And we've employed Bobby as superintendent this year under a contract.
Right.
So it goes under the expense side of the budget, same money.
right,
And so what I'm putting in here, what was voted at town meeting,
After we made, you made the
after we
motion
moved that money
to
over.
move money over,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And so that was, my suggestion is we put in that same amount. We will, they of course had also deducted significant money already. Oh no, that's not right. I'm incorrect on that. They had already deducted the money that, we do want to put in the same amount that we put in
We're gonna level fund from what we
for what was appropriated.
appropriated after town, at
Yes,
town meeting.
yes. And the number I just was playing with on here isn't right because they had taken money out of our accounts previously to pay, to put in the highway department to pay for the mowing.
Part-time people.
Yeah, yeah. So, but we'll get that number. I remind the superintendent that we have money appropriated for telephone. And that's something that should be put in as an expense to us to reimburse or whatever. And we'll chat about that otherwise, but we have 740 in the budget for that, based
the
on what we were
phone.
paying previously to George. And I think I'll put it in that way this year, and in the course of how it all works out, by another year, we'll revise it to suit the current situation. We had 400 in for gasoline, and as far as I know, that's still reasonably appropriate. We had 139 on this one.
Yeah,
I don't know, it may be that's gonna be higher, actually.
Yeah,
well,
because of the gas prices.
yeah, the gas has increased, but I also, is that for just 1 month, or is it because we didn't see a bill there for a couple of months? Is that,
I have seen at least one more.
okay.
I have seen at least one more, and we can check with June what the actual amount was, but, yeah, maybe we, instead of 400 that we had previously, we better make that up to 500.
I can make it a little,
think-
I think that's very conservative. I'd put 6.
Yeah, because gas is almost
Double.
doubled. It was around,
Yep,
All right.
750,
It was-
750 was the intuitive number that I came up to just now as you were talking, but
I think it was like, the lowest was 209, 219 for gas, and then it's 335 down here at the gas station, so it's
Yeah.
jumped that much.
Yeah, I think that, well,
So we're
we
closer
had
to
it at
7 now.
400, I think
650, 7.
650?
Yeah.
Let's say 650, how's
All
that?
right.
That's really just gonna take some money out of some other account in order to make it work anyway. But it should be higher.
You just shift
I
all of
expect the
this.
telephone is gonna come down a bit, but from where we
Well,
had it.
still, that's,
I don't know yet what that's gonna be, so.
600 is $50 a month, and that's the pretty cheapest bill that you can get. If you call it 700, I mean, that's still
For a
pretty
phone?
cheap.
What's
for a phone.
what's your bill a month now?
120?
About 45,
45?
Mine's 120,
and I don't,
and
I,
How many, is
I have
that
2
only one?
devices.
Is that 2 phones or one?
I have this phone and this iPad. So,
Yeah. That's why, I mean, they're all different, and I don't.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
but $50 a month is right around the cheapest that you can get.
I pay $80 a year.
Yeah, so, yeah.
A year.
Oh, $80 a year?
Yes.
wow.
But that's limited minutes, and the
Yeah.
thing is, I don't use them, so I build them up, and I end up with plenty there, so.
Right, but you still use your house phone.
I
for
use
everything.
my house phone for most things.
Right.
You
Most
basically
calls.
have it when you're on the road.
Yes.
So
yeah.
what's your house phone bill?
Oh, that's 130, but that includes the internet and includes internet for that.
So you're actually paying more like, more
Well-
like 100, you're like 150, oh no, 140 something a year.
Yeah,
I mean, a
uh-huh.
month is your real actual phone usage. You put the your cell phone and your internet, and yeah.
Well, that's another thing to figure out that I'm not going into right now. I'm just trying to deal with this. 50 a month, so it would be 600,
Right,
and we have had it at 740.
I'd leave it at the 740, 750, right around.
I'd leave it at the 740 now. Maybe in another year, we could decide to change that, but right now, I think that's right. We had 480 for other services, we had 5,000 for other supplies, we had 620 for other expenses. And the contracted services was like 7,300 and something like that. And we, you know, that covers Bobby, but it also covers Paul, the digging, the excavations, and any other things that we do with it. And some of the time, you know, if we have the money there, we use it to, you know, have some tree work done and things like
Right,
that
right.
too. So, I mean, my thought is we keep the same numbers for most of that. We will take we'll take the additional money out of other supplies in order to have more for gas.
Yeah, you can always move.
Yeah.
And if you have and you might not use it, this year was exceptional, the amount of mowing this year was
It
because
is,
of the rain.
oh yeah, it also, we were mowing all the time, it never stopped.
Constant.
Never stopped this year again, another year of that. It's important to realize that we do this, it's how you make the budget. In actuality, all of these expenses are paid out of one account.
right.
And nobody really pays too much attention to that later. I don't mean to say that we should be cavalier about these estimates, but
Right, no.
at the same time, you're not held, you know, if
No, I know.
if gas is more or less,
Right, I know.
and
It's
you
a-
spend it, so
it's
nobody's
a-
paying it.
All the
Goes
money's
somewhere.
put in one
Yeah.
kitty and then you take.
Yeah, yeah.
It goes somewhere else, it just, you
Yeah.
can't.
So how is the accounting, so you pay these amounts over time, and I can't do this. Sorry.
She's had COVID and she has to have oxygen sometimes.
Believe me, I understand, I've watched Judy for years, so.
So for a few minutes, your mask is off, yeah.
You pay overtime for, you know, tractor supplies and
Yeah.
Bob and the gas, and how are the actual receipts tracked? Is it an online program or is it a paper ledger? How do you do it?
It's on the bills that we submit.
So it's a paper?
It's a
just-
paper thing,
paper.
and as we submit the bills. Yeah. And
So these are submitted to the town account?
these go to the accountant and the treasurer to do the bill.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice that you don't have to write the checks and do the accounting.
No, we don't have to do that, but we do have to, we are supposed to keep track of what we put in so that their books and our books match.
Right,
At any rate,
that's smart.
if
So
you
you-
folks are all right, I will put this budget afterwards with the numbers we just talked about and the combination from last year as it came
So
out.
do you keep a ledger of them, or how do you
Well-
duplicate copies? How do you come up with a total when you're, like, going along?
We keep these,
Yeah,
and we also get from the accountant each month, we get papers to verify, and she gives us her sheet for that.
so it's a tally sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we were paying the electric, it would have a thing for the electric, it would help for the gas, it would have a
Right,
thing
but it's
for
a tally
me,
sheet,
it'd have
it's
yeah.
a tallying of everything you get in a sheet form, so there's one for every month. Got it.
Yeah.
So if you want to, if it's like, if it's June and you want to see where you were at, you just get those sheets out and add them up, and you
Yep.
know that you spent for
Yeah,
mowing X amount of dollars. Got it.
yeah.
Okay.
And if we need to, you can go to the accountant and request her tally of it, and she'll print it out for the year. On occasion, I've had to do that to make sure I knew where we were.
Right. And that's usually like September.
No, the year is July 1 to June 30th. So it's usually about May that I start doing
When
that.
you need
First
to.
of
Make
May
sure we
to
know
see
what's
where we are.
left. Because then, that's usually in May and June is when we usually, if we've got enough money, we either buy a piece of equipment we need, or we have some tree work done, or things like that.
Right.
Or you end up, if you know you gotta go talk to the finance committee about money too.
To pay the last bills because we overran.
We didn't.
And that happens
And
too.
various reasons, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
year I had 10 burials in the winter, it got very expensive.
Right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Now I understand.
Well, that's all right, and that's part of why we're here. And
Exactly.
as a new member of the board, you've learned about several things that we're doing and running along, and this is catching up on one we haven't talked much about.
Well, I've heard a
before.
lot of this talk before, but I didn't understand how it was tallied up until
Yeah.
this moment. So now
Yeah.
I
That's
have a
fine.
better picture of.
Yeah,
Cool. And I've actually heard you say in May, well, I have to go to the
See how mu-
accountant
make
and get a
sure that we're in
printout.
agreement on it,
I've
yeah.
heard you say that, but I didn't understand how it all worked
Yeah.
together. So cool.
I have high on my list of things I'm concerned about is getting email for Bobby through his telephone.
Yes.
I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it here now, but, because it really is a task to be done. But I would like us to spend a little time after we finish this meeting, just working on the task and figuring out what we need to do to get it accomplished. Because the superintendent really needs to have email. And we had intended to do it sooner, but this year has proven to be challenging in some other ways, so I'm really putting that on the top of the pile to get that
I
straightened
am
out.
in 100% agreement.
And it may involve acquiring a different phone for him. He's using a flip phone. We may have to acquire a different phone for him in order to do
He
it.
does have to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I don't need the latest and greatest, because that would
No.
just confuse me.
But you do need to have some form of a smartphone that
Yeah.
can do it.
No, what you need is a phone that's easy to learn intuitively.
Right,
Senior friendly.
yeah,
Well, most of them are. I mean, it's pretty good, but
yeah. So we'll work on that as a
iPhones
task
have the
after.
nice thing where you can go to somebody that you have in your contacts list, and you can FaceTime them. You can do
Yeah, you talk to them face to face.
that's right.
Yeah.
Just like, I've watched Jill do it with her
Yeah.
Courtney.
Yeah.
Talking to her in Brookline and
Yeah.
from up, down at the house and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and Jill has a Samsung or something. She says it's not the latest and greatest, and she got it from unlimited texting through Walmart for like, this was a few years ago, $37 a month.
and getting this all accomplished is probably gonna mean you'll get a little bigger phone bill too, so that's understandable that that's gonna have to work, so.
To give up my flip phone.
Yeah,
Once you go over, you'll be like, what took me so long? Why did I do that? There's so much stuff that you can look up on here and sit and watch, how to stuff a turkey and how to turn a Yamaha into a cafe racer and how to dig a well and how to bury your uncle.
okay.
I know how to do that already.
I want to reflect back on the concept of a contract superintendent that we've got currently for this year. I know that you two went to the Personnel Committee
Meeting.
last week.
Yeah.
And had a good meeting with them. And I spoke to Margaret today and said to her, we're going to put in our budget with the idea that it would be a contracted superintendent continued. I said, if we're open to having it become an employee, if that's what the town wants in some other ways, but I said, right now, I'm gonna put it in this way.
Right.
She made the comment to me, and she was very pleased with your presentation last week. And she said that, to her, the level of flexibility that's needed because of the after hours and out of hours and that kind of stuff that you have to do, that the flexibility that the contract system gives us is maybe better than trying to have an employee and have that work somehow. So she doesn't know what the personnel committee may have discussed after she left, because she couldn't stay at that full meeting. And they meet again this coming week. So she's going to see what comes out of that meeting. And I don't know whether they want any of us to come, but if we find out they do, we'll try to attend.
One of the things they mentioned was about a cell phone.
Yeah.
They asked me, and I said, you need something because, I said, Penny is still getting phone calls because this is the phone number people had from 30 years
That's
ago,
right.
and that's all they know. I says, and you need something, so 40 years from now, it's the same number.
Yeah,
It's still
we haven't
just
put
like the
We
secretary's
haven't put
office.
the new number out, and we need to consider that.
Well, I also wondered while that conversation was going on, and I didn't say it at that meeting because I felt it was appropriate for our meeting, is have we approached Penny and asked her if we could have that number? If she would,
The number they have for her is her house phone,
yeah,
because that's what George had
I
when
understand
it first
that.
started, and he's never
I
changed it.
understand that.
I don't think that's the thing to do. I think we need to get a new number and just get that all changed.
Well, I think we should throw it out to Penny. And here's why.
Yeah.
Because if there aren't enough people in her circle that would care whether she's got a new number or not, then porting the number into the town and her getting a new, I mean, it might be fine with her. If we could ask her,
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Let me just reflect on all of this. They had landlines, they had cell phones.
Yeah,
We were paying a cell phone bill for George.
yeah,
He actually had the numbers, the calls coming in through his landline, which would automatically switch to his cell phone if it wasn't picked up. And it was just it was a complicated thing that I just think we'd be better off to get ourselves set with either Bobby's number or a new number that we specifically for it, and just change it all, send the notes out to everybody.
I know, I respect that, I understand that, but I think that the house phone is active, but his cell phone is gone, right? Do they still have like?
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
Because if she let that go, then they're not linked anymore. And I'm just saying,
Well, I'm going to say the whole thing was very complicated.
yeah,
And
I understand.
I would
I
rather, I mean,
don't-
we can
I know,
we can investigate that idea, but the
only reason I'm saying it
I
is
know why you're saying it.
because she would like to get rid of that number, is why I'm saying it. Because maybe she doesn't want to get those calls anymore, and if she's still getting them, maybe she would like to, give it back to us. That's why I'm saying it, for no other reason than that. Maybe we should ask her.
The history of all of this, Sally Bergen was on this committee for about 20 years, 15 years or more, after she got done being treasurer. And they tried to get George to make a deal on his phone bill, so they were paying some of it, and he wouldn't do it. And then finally, when the cell phone idea came up, he said, okay, we'll pay for the cell phone, and I'll keep my landline. And the whole thing is complicated and developed over a long time. And I'd rather
Honestly, I hear you. I do hear you.
yeah.
I do hear you.
Yeah,
I
and-
don't think, if she's gotten rid of his cell phone, if she doesn't have his cell phone anymore, then those, I know, I would 99.9% guarantee you that there's no lingering link.
As I said, we can investigate it, but we gotta find out what's actual
Yeah,
at this point. So,
gotcha.
At any rate, I discussed it with Margaret, and we're gonna put it in the budget as continuing the contract superintendent for another year.
Excellent.
And another subject came up. Fern and I chatted with you about what happened at that meeting.
Yeah.
And the business of a list, having a list, somebody could actually look up things on the internet. I have the grave list for the burying ground. I have digitized that map in 2 pieces to go with it. And
Sweet.
those things could be put up on the internet anytime.
That's awesome.
I also have, Bobby's familiar with it, a typed list of everything in the North Cemetery.
Yep.
And I updated it this summer
Right.
to that point. And that, both of those things are in the town clerk's office. Eloise has them, and if she has questions, she can answer them based on those things that are in her office's files. South Cemetery is more complicated. We don't have a list that has all the names on it. We do have a list that has, I have an index for it, but it's an incomplete index in terms of names. It has all the lot owners of record, and it has
Right.
some of the other names, but not all of the others.
Right.
And so it's not really good, but it might, that could also become something we put up until it gets better, we got a better one.
I would hesitate to
Yeah,
do that,
yeah.
because if it has the lot owners and then
It's
there's
confusing.
5 or 6 other names in that plot, I would.
And the lot owners are 100 years ago and 150 years ago, and,
That's a recipe for
and,
trouble right there. I wouldn't do it.
yeah,
I would
it
not.
kind of is.
I would not.
And so, I started to do a list in the computer, and then I got going with it and realized it really wasn't good. It needs to be done as a database, so it will alphabetize and all those kinds of things. And so I stopped that project. I didn't get too far into it. And that's a project to do in the coming up,
Right,
is to try to
right,
work on
right.
an every name index that would have all that stuff in it for the South Cemetery. And at that point, that could go up too. But as I say, 2 of them we could put up now,
Yep.
or soon, I should say. And if we can get set up with it, and that could be, there's no secrets, it's just the public access and what makes sense.
Yeah, and you don't want to, like down south, you don't want to give out the wrong name or, like,
No.
or miss a name too.
No, and it's more complicated because it's lot numbers that are big lots and.
And you could have umpteen different people
Oh, yeah.
put in there that aren't registered.
Yeah, so I think it would be better not to do that, but it occurred to me that the old burying ground list and I had an inquiry from a man in Bolton who was working on, he's been searching out grave locations for one of the, for Find a Grave or one of those outfits that's on the internet with all this stuff all over the country. And he was asking me about the old burying ground, and I kind of explained it a little, and then I got thinking, and so I did a scan of the map in 2 parts, which has all the grave numbers on it.
Yeah, the one that
And
Katie and,
yeah, and I sent him that, and I sent him the list. And he was very happy, and it has all the stuff he wanted, so my view is that could be set up and put up on the, on a website, for the town website, and that would make that stuff available, that when somebody asked that question, I guess, at the meeting, we actually could do that for some of it.
yeah, because that, actually, people that are researching genealogy or something might
Yeah.
find a name
Yeah.
and they can check it out, because there was a man one time in the cemetery at South, and he'd been to Bolton and stuff, and he was actually
Yeah.
down, going from lot to lot, writing all the names down, the people that potentially could have been in the Civil War.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I
And
remember when he was there.
he says, even if they're not listed as a Civil War on the stone,
Yes.
he says,
Yeah.
I still, we will check it to see if they were in the Civil War. That's what he was doing.
Well, years ago, Katie Bacon did that with the Revolutionary, took every name that was potential, and
remember
all the
that.
men
Yeah.
that died in the period, in
Yeah,
any
yeah,
period
yeah.
at all, she ran them through the soldiers and sailors list that the state
Had.
published years ago, and we found some more veterans, Revolutionary veterans we didn't know about.
They were up here.
So, yes, that kind of stuff can be done too. Anyway, I mention that because as I got thinking about it, we really could put some of the stuff up at least, and that would be an indication of our intent. And the South Berlin one, we've really got to spend more time working out how to do it. New issue, the Hearst House. The Historical Society met on Sunday, and we're getting the Hearst House project going again.
Good.
I would like to
Good.
request that the commission confirm or reaffirm its previous approval of the location for the Hearst House to be the same as we had, that was approved in 1973. We can put it back where it was. That would be a good idea, and then we've got to deal with building permits and stuff, but I think it would be a good thing for us to record that the Cemetery Commission approves the previous location and reapproves it to put the
same.
building back there. Is there a motion to that effect?
I second the motion.
Okay, motion by me, second by Brenna. Anything to be said on that motion?
This is gonna go back to the original, when
To the
Roger,
spot it's been on,
when Roger Wheeler moved.
yeah.
Where it would be on all the plot plans that have been for years.
Yes. I would add that part of the reason that John Nutting picked out the location and suggested it back when we were starting to work on that project in the 1970s. And the point is that it's set back far enough so we still have room in that corner of the burying ground to drive in there with a vehicle and turn it around and
Yes, you
unload
do,
it,
'cause
load it, and drive out.
I've done that.
Yes.
You can get in there with a pickup or a
Yeah.
one-ton, pull up, back down,
Yeah.
and do what you have to do.
Yeah. And it's the only place in the cemetery you can do that.
Yeah,
And if you move the Hearst House into that space,
you're
Yeah.
done. Your access is gone.
it takes it away. So
Your access is gone.
that's our reasoning. The reasoning we have for it is that that's the one place we can put it that
It doesn't.
maintains our access for other purposes.
Yeah, and you can get behind it if you have to get into the tomb and stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. You've heard a motion that we reaffirm the previous location for the Hearst House to be re-erected. I'll ask you to vote. Ager, aye.
Ewing, aye.
Kyle die.
Okay, we have 3-0. Have we got any new news on the stone that's tipped over in the front of the burying ground? And we were talking to we
I
have
did-
talked to a contractor about that.
Yeah, and I haven't chased him because of the weather. I can talk to him
This is,
tomorrow.
yes.
Yeah, I don't know whether, at this point, I see what he has to say about whether it could be done now or not
Yeah.
because of the getting into winter.
Yeah, I'll ask him.
If we
about
have to wait till spring, we have to wait till spring. But
Where is this? This is
in
in,
the front of the burying ground, there's one that's, it's a heavy one. It's a bigger one than most of them. It's from early 20th century. And it tipped over by its own situation, the settling under it. But it had only, it was sitting on other old stones.
front
and
of old burial ground.
shards
yeah,
and
front of
things.
old.
And it didn't have a deep foundation. And our proposal is to use one of the nearby contractors that does a lot of work in our cemetery and have them put in a modern foundation under it.
Right.
And then put it back on its foundation which will be deep enough so it shouldn't tip over. It
Should never
stay,
move again.
should stay erect for a very long time. And there's a second stone there, it's somewhat smaller further back, that we'd have him do at the same time if we can, yeah. But the one that's in the front is very evident, and we've wanted to get it fixed. We have a stone in the North Cemetery that we've been dealing with the issues in regard to.
That's-
You talked to Monty about that?
That's set in there for now. Cut
It's what?
sod. It's in there now.
It's in
And he
there now?
didn't- He,
Without its foundation?
yes, because
Okay.
when I talked to Louis, he thought it would be better
Yeah.
to just put it in, and then in the spring, he said he could, when
Deal with the
everything
rest.
gets straddled, come over, he says, I can move it back, end of the day, put some quick cement in, and we move it back the next
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
And he was
The
gonna,
family
he was
is-
gonna explain that to.
Yeah, the family has been waiting more than patiently for quite a while, and so we put it in on a temporary basis without a foundation, but it will get a foundation later, when we can get that accomplished. So that one's done. Bobby, do you have other things to report on that you,
Yeah, I have another burial in the spring, cremation burial. The woman's name is Lois Kingsbury.
oh, yeah,
She, her daughter called me from Vermont,
yeah,
and they asked what she had to do, and I explained to her, you know,
Excuse me.
because she got my name from Maggie McNally.
yeah. Will that one be,
It's a cremation.
will it go in the grave with the mother or something? Is that what it is?
I'll have to ask her that. It's the mother, because the mother's in one, I think she's a full, then the father is ashes, and then there's one more grave, and I think she talked about it going in number 3.
Oh, okay.
But I will explain
Oh,
to her.
there is a third grave there?
Because there is a third grave there.
Okay,
And Lois's husband, Bob, lives in Air now, and he's 90, so
yeah.
he,
They might use it for 2 of them.
yeah, that was the way it sounds like. He's probably gonna be cremated too, and she, talked about it during the middle of the week, because it was gonna be small, probably 10 or 12 people, just cousins and stuff, and she says, everybody's retired.
Yeah.
So she says it's just, it's gonna be nothing big, and it's probably gonna be in the middle of the week, when it's convenient for everybody to get
Yeah.
down there. But probably, she was talking, probably May.
Yeah.
And,
I have had a call recently from Michelle McCully Box's husband,
okay,
and he is interested in putting Michelle's ashes in. I talked to him about the 2 graves, this is about the 2 graves in the next row down that Carolyn owned.
yeah, next to Estelle Boyce.
Yeah, yes. And he is, I called him back, I chatted with him about it. There was a question about perpetual care there, but we have found in an old town report where she paid some of it, so I suspect she paid it in pieces.
Yep.
And so that's okay now, I don't have to worry about that one anymore. And today, Michelle's brother Bill called me and said, yep, he's all with it. I guess it'll be one grave will belong to Bill, and one grave will belong to to
Michelle.
and so forth, so. I think that's coming, and if he calls me back about it, I'm gonna send him to you to arrange
Okay.
all of that, okay?
Yeah, that's the fair way to do it.
Yeah.
Both, they can split it, and it's,
Yeah. But Billy called me today to say that he was all at one with that, they're
Doing
being
that.
able, you take one of those graves and use it. And so that's fine. And I've got the number from Mr. Box,
okay.
and I'll try to give that to you. But I think that, actually, what I think I might do is, when I hear something more, I'll give you the number to have you call and then
Okay.
arrange the whole thing. Now, that does it for new stuff in that regard. Are there other things that we need to deal with?
I talked to Fred Cummings about the driveways,
Yeah,
and I had the thing, and we were gonna meet, and then he ended up they were doing some come up to do some computer program
Yeah.
on the thing, so it took longer than he had, and then he forgot, and I had stuff to do, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to meet with him tomorrow and talk with him, see if I can meet with him tomorrow and lay out just what we, because I told him the original, what I have measured was the original, but then we have more money, so.
so we.
And I wanted to
go all
explain
the
to
way
him
the
where
end.
we're gonna, it needs to be dug out and different, this go over it with him, and,
So what are we talking about?
We're talking about repaving driveways at the South
South.
Cemetery. And the stuff that I gave him the print that I had at town meeting with the areas.
he showed that to me.
Yeah, and I told him to talk to you because I know you'd done measurements before, because he wanted to have numbers for that.
Yeah, the original
Yeah,
15.
so hopefully we can get that set, so when he does some paving in the spring, he can get this done too, and get it all squared away.
Well, he understands too with the money and the potential of losing some of it, because that's
Yeah.
what they had to go to town, the special town meeting, so that he could carry some money over from before.
Yeah.
And he knows the situation we're in. He's in the same situation.
He's got some hot top now that he can use that he needs to use before much longer.
Yeah,
It's
and he
been
wants to
on the
use
books
it.
a while. I have, and the other thing is, we need to perhaps meet for a work session to measure stuff at North Cemetery to deal with the main road up there, because we're hopeful that we can do more on that. Oh, gosh, I haven't done that thing. I've got to do a request on that for money, more money for the.
Oh, for the capital planning?
For capital planning. Oh, I forgot about that. And I'm late with it. At any rate, we have had a standing thing for 15,000 a year to try to work on this, but we've got to go past this coming year, we've got to have more plan for up there, so we'll
Yeah.
be working on that too. But I do want to get some measurements so that we can figure out how much we might do of that main road with 15,000, or,
Yeah.
and we should have some left from the South Berlin job, but we won't know that for
Don't
a
know.
while.
Depends on the price, because
Yeah.
everything's
So is
so
that?
crazy.
Capital planning, is that for 2023?
Yeah, for 23.
24?
Oh, I'm sorry, for 23.
2023?
But you also have to they also want it for 5 years in advance.
Right.
And we have given them previous ones with advanced years on it, but
Yeah.
at this point, we need to explain more fully what we're looking for North Cemetery long run, and so we can begin to come up with just how long it'll take us to get that done. And I'm not sure, we might not do every year. If we could get the main road done, we might not do every year for a while after that, but longer term, we do want to get a single lane out on the other side of the cemetery so that people can go in, drive across on the lots, on the cross drives, grass drives between the things, and then go out the other side.
So they won't turn around on the grass when it's muddy.
Yeah. We have for a long time, when we have funerals and crowds there, they come up and we park them on the grass out front.
Right.
But as we start, we've got like 4 or 5 rows we've started using, going across the back of that part.
Yeah.
And at some future time, we're gonna have to put them in the driveways between.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of planning ahead for all of that, so that they would have an outway to go to.
Sure. Right. So, when you're planning this, are you doing just, so you're going to have the driveway come in and have that be paved?
Yeah.
And you're creating the location of the driveways as you're laying out the graves to expand cemetery. Are you laying down, are you scraping, turf,
Taking the loom out
taking the loam out and replacing it with gravel? Is that part
for
of
the cross driveways, we're gonna leave them grass.
Not yet.
But eventually?
Eventually, well,
there'll be one, at least.
We're gonna
one.
do, we thought we'd do one in gravel, which would probably be the one right behind the wall. And do that one in gravel, and then at some point, you know, we'll see how it develops with the others. But, you know, we've got grass drives in South Berlin. Grass drives work okay, except if it's muddy.
Right,
And
yeah,
over time, we may have to decide to do more gravel ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have we costed out the, you know, asphalt versus gravel? Have we costed out what the difference is in terms of, like,
Oh.
what's the capital outlay per foot or per
Not yet.
mile?
And that's just what I'm talking about, is we need to work on that
Yeah.
total
'Cause
plan.
you gotta put the
Yeah.
gravel down
Get a total
anyways.
plan set up there that
Right.
relates to this. And
Right.
while we've had the concept, we've talked a lot about the concept with George and stuff for some time, we've never really created a plan for that.
Right.
And we need to do that. We also have talked about having the main drive there done wide enough so you could have two-way traffic on it.
Yeah, smart.
We'll park double wide for a
Yeah,
funeral.
so what about, what role does the Ross plan play in how it relates to this
Well,
conversation?
that will also relate to this because he previously had done some work on that, and we have talked about it, and provided enough space to make a wider road there,
Yeah.
though we've never actually developed it as such.
Right,
And so that's another thing we have to do, is make sure we've got that space appropriately for that. And so the work that we have that we still want him to do more of will also relate to all of this. And particularly on the other side of the cemetery where we want to get the one lane
so they
out.
can come out, right.
Yeah.
The current row of evergreen trees that's there has to come out in order to put that drive-in going out.
But
And
they're all dying,
some of them are pretty well shot anyway.
Right,
They're
right.
already starting to.
Some of them are starting to go anyway, they aren't very good, some of them are better than others. But in the long run, we need to take them out in order to make that drive out, back out.
Interesting.
And we can talk about aesthetics that relate to that sometime, I mean, that's part of what's,
Sure.
I don't think we're ready to do it now, but we should have a session up there sometime that we talk some more about that.
I lost my pencil. Oh, there it is.
Um,
So this is as it relates
Yeah, this is,
to Costo.
Bobby has been talking to Fred about getting the driveways done at South Cemetery. And then we also need to do the planning for the North Cemetery so that we can produce stuff to go to,
This is, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Capital planning. and all
the
that.
capital planning with.
North Cemetery, got it. Okay, I'm caught up. Thank
Now, there
you.
are other subjects to come up.
North Cemetery,
North.
out next to the main, the front, where it says North Cemetery. I've had somebody asking about putting a couple of shrubs out there near the stone on the side.
Why?
They think it looks, and they're willing to contribute money to it. They just think it looks barren out there.
I personally, with my horticulture experience, am grossly not in favor of planting lollipop plants that you then shave off every year so that they don't overgrow the stones. I just think that that's just a travesty, and if we refuse to participate in it, it's all the better for America. However, tasteful plantings at appropriate distance, so the mature size of the plant is planned for.
Absolutely.
But this idea of planting cutesy little
Oh, believe me.
gumdrops on either side of a stone.
Believe me, I understand you.
So-
Everybody puts stuff in, they don't figure it grows and
It's
how
gonna
big it's gonna.
grow. They're gonna grow. And
Oh, yes.
we've
Now-
had previous meetings, we've had this conversation about people sticking little shrubs next to the stone, and then, 20 years later, there's no stone there, there's
Yeah, I
just a
know.
giant bush, so.
We have a policy to have no shrubs in
Yes.
that new front field.
Now, do hollies get that big?
Yes.
Okay, see, that's, I didn't know.
Hollies get taller than this room and wider than the distance between you and I.
Okay, would you, if I talked to him, would you be in, just maybe putting bed of perennials out there maybe?
Oh, yeah, a perennial bed is a lovely idea, lovely idea. And
Okay.
there's lots of things that we can,
I mean, I personally love daylilies and stuff like that.
the daylilies are great, there's many, the queen of the prairie is Philopendula, and it grows to somewhere between 3 to 6 feet tall with beautiful pink plumes. It's a fabulous perennial, and that would be something that if we put it in, it would be, in the, maybe behind the stone, and then you could do lovely daylilies or even annuals in the
sides.
front of it.
Well, they
and
always
it would give it,
put the-
it would be a statement that people would go, wow, that's lovely.
Well, they put the geraniums in the front anyways.
Right, but the point being that you'd be planting something that would have a wow factor
Yeah,
that
oh,
the person
absolutely.
is looking for.
But
Yeah.
would not like
It wouldn't be
overgrow.
barren, and you could do a small bed around it and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the
that's-
thing is, you don't want to plant perennials that are then going to, you don't want to do an English garden style planting where eventually they all grow into each other and become weeds. You don't want that. You want
yeah.
something that's a little more sedate.
You want it low maintenance.
If it's full sun, it's Philopendula. If there's some shade there, if there's
No
trees
shade.
around, yeah, so there's no. But if we wanted to do that similar thing, there are other tall flowering things that like more shade, like goat's beard and.
And I personally, I like daylilies because they're very nice, but I would not want to put hoster out there. And the reason being is that they
There's too much sun.
and they also, the deer like them, and then they're right out next to the street, and you could potentially, they're dallying and somebody's car gets hit.
Totally agree.
That's,
Totally agree. Yeah, hostas are deer salad.
yes, and
They
all
are.
you need is one standing 3 feet from the road, and next thing it's in the road on top of somebody's hood.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I just,
no,
and not
I
so much
wouldn't-
the factor I'm worried about the deer, I don't want somebody to get hurt.
I wouldn't put any hostas
No.
unless people want to plant them themselves around the graves in that cemetery. I wouldn't put any hostas.
I don't know why people put them in, because the sun just destroys them.
Well.
Yeah,
people
they're
do this.
they're
But that's
not a
not
full.
my-
They're not a full sun plant.
They're not at my graves, and if somebody else wants them, go
Yeah.
right ahead.
I will make a comment that, you made the comment that it looks kind of bare and stuff, and my answer is I like bare.
I do too.
Okay?
On the other hand, I'm not unwilling to entertain something in this regard, but I would suggest that, I don't know. I mean, I'd even suggest having the person talk with Brenner and
Yeah.
maybe come
Well,
up with a
that's-
plan,
yeah, that's-
which we can then have brought before us at another meeting.
Yeah, that's, I just wanted to throw
That's-
it out there, because we're not gonna do anything till spring
So let me
anyway.
let me throw another idea out there, and this is a decision that I made for my daughter's grave. Is I planted a Chinese peony, which is a tree peony, and so it's going to have those great big flowers, but it's going to grow into a beautiful, oriental shape and it's a shrub, but it's not. It's not.
It's low.
It's not so much that it's low. It has a more of a bonsai spidery effect. So it's not ever going to turn into a mass that obliterates.
Takes
It's not
everything
gonna
over.
It's
overwhelm
not gonna-
the space that's
It's
allowed
not
for
going
it.
to eat. It's not going to eat Tokyo.
Yeah.
the blob that ate Tokyo. It's not
Yeah.
gonna do that, not like a ewe, for instance,
Yeah.
or,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Talk about deer salad.
Or an ivy. The hollies are ridiculous. People put them in front of their houses and then they can't see their front door in 20 years. It's gone because the two things grew and you
Yeah.
can't.
You see, I've only
you
ever
can't
seen
get in the
hollies that
house.
are small. I didn't know how
Yeah.
big they got.
Oh,
You can't get in your house and they're prickly. You know.
They grow up.
Yep.
And I know nothing eats them though,
No.
because they're toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I mentioned that, because the fact, again, the deer aren't gonna chew it. Because
Yeah.
you put some shrub in and the deer chew it down every year, what's the sense?
Well,
It looks like hell.
if this person is genuinely wants to, if they want to throw money at us and just let us put a planting in and we can figure it out ourselves, but if they want to participate in the process, you can say to them, you know, Google perennials and shrubs that just never mind shrubs. Google perennials that are deer resistant or that deers don't like, and see if there's anything on that list that appeals to you.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we want is like non-invasive, so we don't want anything from the Massachusetts invasive species list.
No.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't want-
That's a,
We don't want.
Approving anything
we
would
don't
not be
things-
on that list.
Ajuga is one that comes to mind. People put it in their gardens and next thing you know, they have an ajuga lawn instead of a grass lawn.
Yeah.
Because they go everywhere.
Yeah.
mint will do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right, mints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't
Exactly.
want that to happen.
So we don't want things like that. We don't want things that'll, you know, just escape their borders and go everywhere and then we just try to mow them and get rid of them and forever.
Yeah, even lily of the valleys will move.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We will,
They're easier to
we
control.
can leave this that, you know, you can discuss it with the person and if they want to work on a plan with one of us or something, that's okay.
Okay,
And if there's a plan developed, we can take it up at a future meeting for possible approval.
okay.
That's fine. Is there anything else for this meeting? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. Thank you very much.